This is the first video from the series of the inter-autonomous MPLS VPN. We have a famous concept in the MPLS VPN. We call it inter-autonomous MPLS VPN, and we can solve the inter-autonomous MPLS VPN scenarios with some options. For example, option A, option B, option AB, or option C. Because of that, first we should understand what is the inter-autonomous MPLS VPN, and after that we can talk about the configuration of this feature in different methods. In this video I'm going to talk about the option A. Let me to start to discussing the inter-autonomous MPLS VPN. Look at here. In this scenario we have two ISPs, ISP1 and ISP2. You know that in every scenario we configured before in this course, we had only one ISP, but here we have two ISP, ISP1 and also ISP2. Also, as you can see, ISP1 has two customers. The first customer is customer A, and the site 1 of customer A connected to the PE of the ISP1. And also we have customer B, and the site 1 of customer B connected to the R1, one of the P routers in ISP1. Okay. And also in the ISP2, you can see we have customer A site 2 and customer B site 2 connected to the R10, the PE of the ISP2. Okay. And the requirement is that we need to configuring inter-autonomous MPLS VPN. This means that here we need to cooperation between the two ISPs, and finally after this cooperation these two ISPs can work together to give the connectivity services to the customer A, because customer A in site 1 connected to ISP1 and customer A in site 2 connected to ISP2. These two ISPs should work together, and after that they can provide the connectivity MPLS layer 3 VPN feature or services to the customer A and also customer B. Look at here. Here we don't have MPLS. Here we have only IP services between the R5 and R6. Look at here in ISP1 we have R1, R2, R3, R4 and R3. And as you can see, the R1 is the P router, R5 is another P router. And also in ISP2, we have R6, R7, R9, R10, R8. R6 is the P router and R10 also is a P router, okay? Here between the R5 and R6, we have only IP, not the MPLS. We need to configure inter-autonomous type of MPLS VPN, and the means of inter-autonomous MPLS means is that we are using the MPLS VPN between two autonomous. Because of that we call it inter-autonomous system, okay, or inter-autonomous. Here we have some options for configuring the MPLS VPN in this type of scenarios. The first is option A. We call the option A back-to-back VRF. You will understand why we can, for example, say back-to-back VRF, why we need to back-to-back VRF, and after that, for example, you can compare this type of inter-autonomous MPLS VPN with the next options. Don't forget, this is possible in many cases that you encounter as a MPLS VPN, for example, engineer with this type of scenarios. For example, you are working in one provider and you have some customers, but the other sides of your customers are connecting to the other ISP, for example, in some cities. Because of that, you need to have a cooperation with that ISP to give the service of connectivity to the customers. Because I'm going to use this scenario in, for example, 4 videos or maybe 5 videos, because of that, in this video, the first video of the inter-autonomous MPLS VPN, I am going to configure the scenario from the scratch. Okay, and I also use different IGPs in the AS65000 ISP1, the OSPF routing protocol, and in ISP2 I use the ISIS, because I want to give you the ability to configuring multiple type of scenarios. Here we have ISP1 and ISP2. The ISP1 uses OSPF, ISP2 uses ISIS. The AS number of ISP1 is 65,000, the AS number of ISP2 is 65,001. And also for the customer A, I'm using the AS number 65,000, for example, 2, and for customer B, I'm using AS number 65,003. Okay, this is the initial information about the scenario. And also here we have 192.168.10/24. Here is the 192.168.20/24. And also I use different addresses in the customer B because I'm going to show you the most important part of configuration, and because of that it's better to using different addresses for better differentiating between the for example show commands. But if you want, you can use the same IP address into customer, you know it. And finally, let me emphasize that between R5 and R6 we don't have MPLS. Okay, here we have only IP services. Let me to start the configuration step by step, and after that we can configure the for example option A, and also we can understand the option A. Don't forget that the R3 is the route reflector for the ISP1 and R8 is the route reflector for the ISP2. After we configure the ISP1, we can copy the configuration of ISP1 for ISP2 because here we have so similar configuration with the ISP2. Let me start the configuration of the router 1. This is the R1 CLI. We can start with the configuring IP addressing EN, then a conft. Okay, first we need to configure hostname R1, and you know that we need to enable LDP in this scenario. Let me to use MPLS LDP range 100 to 199. You learn about all of this configuration in the previous videos, and here we don't need to explain more about this part of configuration. After that we have two interface. First is interface ETH00 with the IP address of the 10.121.255.255.255.0 and then no shutdown. And also we have interface ETH01 with the IP address of the 10.131.255.255.255.0 and no shutdown. You know that we need one loopback interface in this router, interface loopback for example 0, and the IP address of this interface is 192.168.2541 quad 255. You learn about all of this configuration in the previous videos. Also, you know that here we have the OSPF as the IGP routing protocol. Because of that, let me to enable OSPF on the ETA00 IP OSPF for example 1 area 0, and then IP OSPF network point to point, IP OSPF network point to point. And then we can copy this part of configuration on the router 1 ETH0 for example 1, and after that on the interface loopback 0 IP OSPF 1 area 0, and we don't need IP OSPF network point to point. This is the configuration of the OSPF. Also, if you want, you can use router OSPF 1 with the router ID of 192.168.2541, and let me to enable MPLS LDP auto config on the OSPF. This is the IGP and also MPLS configuration. Also, you know that here we have the two VRF definition, for example A or A1. Here for RD, let me to use 65,000 colon 1, and also address in address family IPv4 unicast. We can use the route target, then import for example 65,000 colon 1 again, and also route target export, means route target import and export. We can use route target both. Okay, 65,000 colon 1 route target both 65,000 colon 1. That's it. This is the VRF definition A1, and also we have another VRF B1. Let me to to use this command here, VRF definition B1, the site 1 of customer B, and the RD is 65,000:2, address family IPv4 unicast, road target both 65,000:2. That's it. Also, we have the ETH02, the member of the VRF